Whispers of Tomorrow, a love story. Sophie stood by the edge of the river, staring out at the quiet water that reflected the fading summer sky. The breeze was soft, carrying with it the scent of blooming jasmine and the whispers of distant voices. She had always come to this spot when her thoughts were too heavy to bear. Tonight was no different, except that tonight, her thoughts circled around one person, Leah. They had met months ago, both attending the same art exhibit in the city. Leah, with her dark curls and an easy smile, had caught Sophie's eye from the moment she stepped into the room. They had spent the entire evening talking about everything: life, art, love, and before they knew it, they were sharing moments that felt like stolen pieces of time. But things had changed recently. Leah had been distant, and Sophie couldn't figure out why. They were supposed to meet tonight, and yet, here Sophie was, alone by the river, wondering if Leah would show up. Just as she turned to leave, a familiar voice drifted through the air. "Sophie." Sophie froze, her heart racing. She turned to see Leah walking towards her, her eyes filled with something unreadable. The wind blew softly between them, like the quiet sigh of the night. "I thought you weren't coming," Sophie said, her voice softer than she intended. Leah took a deep breath and closed the distance between them. "I couldn't stay away. Not tonight." Her voice was steady, but there was something vulnerable in her tone. Sophie looked into Leah's eyes, searching for the answer to the question that had been gnawing at her for weeks. "What's going on, Leah? You've been so distant. Did I do something wrong?" Leah shook her head, her curls moving with the wind. "No, you didn't. I've just been scared." She reached out and took Sophie's hand. "I've never felt this way before. It's like every moment we've spent together, every touch, every look, it's all made me feel things I didn't know I could feel." Sophie felt her heart skip a beat. "Scared of what?" "Of how much I care about you," Leah admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm afraid of losing you, of us not working out. But I can't let that fear stop me from what I want. And what I want is you." The wind seemed to carry Leah's words, weaving them into the night like a delicate thread. Sophie's eyes softened as she stepped closer, wrapping her arms around Leah's waist. "You don't have to be scared," Sophie said gently, her forehead resting against Leah's. "We're in this together, whatever happens." Leah's lips curled into a small smile. "Take me with you, Sophie. Take me to wherever the winds carry us. I don't care about the future as long as you're by my side." In that moment, Sophie knew that Leah was the one, the person she wanted to spend her life with, through the ups and downs, the uncertainties and fears. The world around them seemed to fade as the two women held each other close, the wind dancing around them like a promise of what was yet to come. Sophie pulled back just slightly, gazing into Leah's eyes. "Let's make this moment last forever," she whispered. And as they stood there, wrapped in each other's embrace, Sophie knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. The whispers of tomorrow could wait. For now, all that mattered was the love they shared, carried on the winds of change. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, its silver light reflected off the river, casting long shadows on the ground where Sophie and Leah stood. The air was filled with the soft hum of crickets and the occasional rustle of the trees, but it all felt distant. Time seemed to slow down as they held each other, breathing in the scent of the night and the warmth of their closeness. Leah sighed softly, her breath brushing against Sophie's cheek. "I don't know why it took me so long to say this," she murmured, her voice quiet but steady. "I think I've always known how much you mean to me. From the moment we met, it was like something inside me shifted." Sophie smiled, her fingers brushing a stray curl behind Leah's ear. "You changed me too," she admitted. Before you I was so closed off. I never let anyone in. But with you it was different. You saw me, really saw me, and I couldn't help but fall. Leah's gaze softened, her eyes glistening in the moonlight. I don't want to be afraid anymore. I don't want to hold back. We've got something special, Sophie. Something worth fighting for. Sophie nodded, her heart swelling with emotion. We do. She gently traced the outline of Leah's jaw, her touch feather-light, as if the moment were fragile and she didn't want to break it. We're going to figure this out together. Whatever comes, I'm not going anywhere. Leah smiled, a slow and radiant smile that lit up her face. She leaned in and pressed her lips to Sophie's in a kiss that was soft and tender, yet filled with unspoken promises. It was a kiss that spoke of all the things they hadn't said yet, but knew in their hearts. When they finally pulled back, Leah rested her forehead against Sophie's, her hands still intertwined with Sophie's. Do you remember that night we went to Gorky Park, back when we first started dating? Leah asked, a mischievous glint in her eye. Sophie laughed softly, the memory bubbling up like a warm glow. How could I forget? You insisted we walk through the park at midnight, even though it was freezing, and we ended up dancing to some street musician's guitar. Leah's grin widened. And you thought I was crazy for wanting to dance in the cold. I still think you're a little crazy, Sophie teased, her eyes sparkling. But that's part of why I love you. Leah's laughter was like music, filling the night with its joy. Well, I'd dance with you anywhere, anytime. Especially now, when it feels like the whole world could change in an instant. Sophie's heart swelled at Leah's words, the truth of them sinking in. They were standing at the edge of something new, something both exhilarating and terrifying. But for the first time in a long time, Sophie wasn't afraid. Not with Leah by her side. Then let's make our own path, Sophie said softly, her voice filled with quiet determination. No matter where the winds take us, as long as we're together, I know we'll be okay. Leah nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. To the magic of the moment, she whispered, repeating the words they had once said to each other on that cold, magical night in the park. Sophie smiled, pulling Leah closer. To the magic of the moment. And with that they danced. There was no music except for the rustling of the trees and the soft hum of the night, but it didn't matter. They swayed together, wrapped up in the warmth of their love, the world around them fading into the background. As they moved under the moonlit sky, Sophie felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. It didn't matter what the future held or what challenges they might face. What mattered was this, being here in this moment with the woman she loved. The wind blew gently around them, as if it carried the whispers of the universe, urging them forward into the unknown. But Sophie wasn't afraid. For the first time in her life, she felt ready. Ready to embrace whatever came next, as long as she had Leah by her side. The night stretched on, endless and full of possibilities. And as Sophie looked into Leah's eyes, she knew one thing for certain. Their love was stronger than anything that might come their way. No matter how the world changed, no matter what storms might blow their way, they would always find their way back to each other. Together they would stand strong, their love unshakable, as eternal as the wind of change itself. And as they danced into the night, Sophie whispered softly, her words carried on the breeze. We've got forever. Leah's smile was radiant as she whispered back. Forever.